Politics lead now the day after President Trump's first address to a joint session of Congress. His critics are wondering whether it was a pivot to a more presidential tone or simply a one-time performance. The speech went over very well with most people who watched it. According to our CNN ORC poll, 57% of viewers had a very positive reaction to the speech. Now, that's lower than the responses to similar speeches by President Obama and Bush, but it's still quite a high number. Perhaps the most moving moment of the night came when the president paid tribute to fallen Navy SEAL Chief Petty Officer Ryan Owens.
Ryan's legacy is etched into eternity. Thank you.
The president also said that Ryan died as he lived, a warrior and a hero, as his widow, his Gold Star wife, watched and wept from the seat next to the president's daughter, Ivanka. An incredibly moving and incredibly powerful moment. But it is important for all of us to focus not only on special moments and big speeches like that, but also on larger policy implications. Words matter, deeds matter as well. Case in point, the Yemen raid in which 30 civilians, including 9 children, were killed, according to the government of Yemen, as well as, of course, Chief Petty Officer Owens. After the raid went down, the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee and a former POW himself, Senator John McCain, questioned how much of a success the raid truly was. The response from the White House and Press Secretary Sean Spicer was this.
The life of Chief Ryan Owens was done in service to this country, and we owe him and his family a great debt for the information that we received during that raid. I think any suggestion otherwise is a disservice to his courageous life and the actions that he just took. Full stop.
Questioning the planning and wisdom behind any military operation does not do a disservice to the heroes who conducted the operation. Quite the contrary, it honors them. It's why we have civilian control of the military. And the legislative branch, well, it has an obligation to conduct oversight over the executive branch. In fact, Ryan Owens' father over the weekend called for an investigation into the Yemen raid. He told the White House, quote, "Don't hide behind my son's death." When it comes to holding the administration accountable, however, just a few before his address to Congress, the president said this about the Yemen operation and Chief Petty Officer Owens.
My generals are the most respected that we've had in many decades, I believe. And they lost Ryan.
They lost Ryan. Quote, they lost Ryan. But they didn't lose him. We did. We all did, as a nation, and one might think that the commander-in-chief who signed off on that raid would also think in terms of we lost Ryan. Accountability and responsibility, these are important principles. The president had expressed hope that this speech would be a way to better communicate with the American people, and he received high marks not only for that moment with the Gold Star wife, and not only for his tenor and tone, but also for how he led off his speech by this part in which he unequivocally condemned acts of hate.
Recent threats targeting Jewish community centers and vandalism of Jewish cemeteries, as well as last week's shooting in Kansas City, remind us that while we may be a nation divided on policies, we are a country that stands united in condemning hate and evil in all of its very ugly forms.
It was a strong, declarative statement issued without qualification, but it came after a year-and-a-half campaign during which the president refrained from any full-throated, extensive condemnation of the white supremacists and anti-Semites who supported him. And interestingly, just hours before the speech last night, the president met with state attorneys general in a meeting at the White House. And according to the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, who asked about the threats against the Jewish community centers and day schools, more than 100 incidents in recent weeks, President Trump suggested that it might not be anti-Semites spreading this fear and making these threats, but perhaps Trump political opponents trying to make him and his supporters look bad. A theory for which there is, as of now, no public evidence, and one that many in the Jewish community, to be charitable, found a tad tone deaf. Words in a big, important speech are important, no doubt. These words, they sounded great.
The time for small thinking is over. The time for trivial fights is behind us.
The lovely words of a prepared speech, however, cannot erase extemporaneous words and deeds, thousands of them, that have run contrary to those aspirations. You know, sometimes